This video was recorded in front of a live virtual audience. Hi everybody, Dacob here. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be reviewing a newly released Louis Vuitton fragrance. I have a little sample here that was kindly gifted by my sales associate at Louis. It's called Imagination. Now I have a... It's so hard to see because they print these names so light. There you have it. And it comes in this almost transparent vial. There's a little bit of slightly tinted blue, but the bottle is the classic Louis Vuitton bottle that we're used to seeing from all of their perfume releases. So not a lot of imagination went into the bottle. So already the bottle isn't promising imagination unless we have lack of imagination, in which case the perfume should have been called lack of imagination, perhaps. But let's get to it. First, let me drink a little. Let me hydrate. Get your superdacob merch on www.superdacob.com. This glass is my merch. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my channel here on YouTube. Thumb up the video if you're liking it thus far. And you can also follow me and join me on my main channel, Super Dacob channel, where you can also push the join button, become a member and patron, and become a quintessential part and supporter of the Fashion Bunker. Thank you so much to all my patrons and members who have already pledged. This video is being filmed live in front of a live audience, virtually from home. So I have all my co-chatters with me in the chats, and we're all going to be talking together about this perfume. If anybody has already tried Imagination, now is the time for you to tell me how it smells for you guys, and I'm going to spray it right now. Actually, I'm going to give it a spray here and here, because perfumes tend to develop differently on my skin depending on if I spray them here or here, so I can get kind of a rounder experience. Okay. Now this one is quite promising because, let me get to the notes. When I read the notes, and I read the notes before I tried it out the first time, I prepared my little notes here and everything. I was interestingly surprised. So, Louis Vuitton Imagination Eau de Parfum. The nose behind it, like behind every other Louis Vuitton fragrance since the inception of this particular range in 2016, is Jacques Cavalier. Release date 2021. They describe it as a citrus aromatic fragrance for men. Yes, there is a range dedicated to men within the Louis Vuitton fragrances, and then there's a unisex range and then a range for women. But at this point, I don't even know why they bother to classify the genders of these. They're so unisex, it's like insane. And in fact, this one is no less. But let's get to the notes, and then we're going to maybe realize why they categorize it as a male fragrance. Well, top notes, Calabrian bergamot, citron, Sicilian orange. Middle notes, Ceylon cinnamon, Nigerian ginger, and Tunisian neroli. Base notes, Chinese black tea, ambroxan, Gaiac wood, and olibanum. Now, you gotta either love the ambroxan or you don't love the ambroxan. A lot of people use ambroxan is like a synthetic version of an ambergris. So it's supposed to be the synthetic version of whatever comes out of the intestines of sperm whales. So when this fragrance is first applied, you really get a blast of bergamot, you get a blast of citrusy hues, the citron, which is different than a citrus, than a lemon. It's a citron. Not a lemon, but a citron. And right, Sicilian orange is a little bit subdued. You don't get all of that orangey smell. It's there, but it's not like, you know, some perfumes when they have orange in the top notes, all you smell is a synthetic orange. This is not the case. It has a lovely subtone to it. After you've sprayed it, or just after spraying it like I did. And if you really smell it for off of your skin immediately before letting it breathe a little bit on your skin and before letting it attach itself to your skin and combine itself with your own essential oils, with your own hormonal balance. So if you're just smelling it right off your skin, it's quite aggressive and pungent. It has that citrusy acidity going for it, and it is synthetic. So it bites. So it's best to kind of let it be, smell it from afar, and it is quite pleasant already from the get-go. But as we keep on going talking about it, we're going to see how it develops throughout these couple of minutes. I gotta say, Jacques Cavalier is famous. You know, we've talked about Jacques Cavalier in other perfume reviews of mine dedicated to mostly Louis Vuitton, because he has composed all of the Louis Vuitton fragrances that came out from 2016 onwards. He is, however, also the nose behind one of my favorite perfumes of all time, which is Classique by Jean-Paul Gaultier. And in fact, even though Classique is a mass release product and it is highly synthetic, it still has a very particular signature note typical to Jacques Cavalier, which is a makeup-y rose. You know, Classique is defined by Gaultier himself as the perfume of the Moulin Rouge or of any really old theater where once the show is over, you enter the theater all alone and you sit on the velvet chairs and there's a little bit of dust collected in them, and off of the stage you get that feeling of the dust and the makeup that's been on that stage for, you know, centuries, depending how old the theater is. So Classique, in fact, has quite a bit of that allure of being in an ancient theater where the particles of dust are mixing in with the heat of the spotlights and the residue of the makeup that's been there for centuries. And also perfume, because of course a lot of actors also wear perfume on stage because it gives them the right zhuzh, and depending on which characters they're performing, which characters the director has given them to kind of fall into. Perfumes also help a lot to put you in the right mood or to set the right tone to help you as an actor also develop the character as you go along. And why am I talking about Classique and a perfume from the 90s as opposed to a perfume that Jacques Cavalier composed now in 2021? Because Classique plays a lot with imagination. And you see, this is why I want to talk about it, because this perfume is called Imagination. The newly launched fragrance by Louis Vuitton is called Imagination. So I would think, wow, if Jacques Cavalier was given by the heads of Louis Vuitton the task to develop a perfume with this name, I thought to myself, well, Jacques Cavalier is for sure going to deliver, because with Classique, he delivered Imagination. At least every time I smell Classique, I'm so catapulted into a whole other world. Thus far, that world ain't it with this one. I don't feel a special moment coming. I don't feel like my imagination is being tickled in any way. Although, I gotta say, super excited by the cinnamon in here, the Nigerian ginger, the Tunisian neroli, you know, Chinese black tea. You would think, yeah, why? Okay, black tea. Why call it Chinese black tea? Do they call it that way to make you feel like you have to smell out something a little bit more, you know, of the furthest of the Easts and Orients in a way? Why, you know? And the Guaiacol and the olibanum, like, these are interesting notes. But then the ambroxan in there, you're thinking, ambroxan, you know, for a certain period of time, ambroxan was the new oud. Now I have the feeling the new ouds, or the ouds, are being substituted more and more by these artificial mineral smells and salty smells and breezy sea smells. That's kind of the new tendency in perfumery, I have the feeling. So this one is a little bit screechy. If you dive your nose into it, it's a little bit aggressive, but it's very pleasant from a distance. So just like waving your arm while you're talking, while I'm talking. I'm getting little wafts of it, and it's pleasant. Is it groundbreaking? No. Does it have anything to do with using your imagination and traveling to faraway lands and worlds and history and mystery? No. But as it's warming up, I am getting more and more hints of the ambroxan. I think the ambroxan needs its time on the skin to start melting. Just like real ambergris needs time on your skin to open up. It's the heat of your skin that actually liberates it. So ambergris is a very fascinating, when it's natural, it's a very fascinating smell. It smells more and more intense as time goes by. I don't quite know how they managed to mimic that characteristic through the synthetic rendition of it. But combined with all of these other ingredients whose names are a little bit mystical, you know, the way that they place them, it does feel like a fresh perfume for summer that does have a twist. It kind of hints at autumn and winter as well. And I think you could wear this one all year round. So maybe that's where the imagination is in. I don't know. But for the amount of money they demand for these perfumes, you guys, it's way too expensive for what it is. I mean, it is interesting. It's not groundbreaking. I think the name of this perfume is misleading. But it is okay. It's pleasant. Let me see. Shop Queen says, did he lose imagination with imagination? Talking about Jacques Cavalier. Jesus says, Miss Imagination has left the chat. Sidonie Sarah asks if classique is better in eau de toilette or eau de parfum. The best is if you hunt down the pure extract, the parfum of classique. But second best is eau de toilette for me. But I do also love the eau de parfum. But eau de toilette is where it's at for me. Sidonie said, all right, that's the... Jack says, real ambergris lasts for an eternity. Yeah, it does. And it's so beautifully deep and warm and, ooh, in a scary way, very tantalizing. It's me, Honey says, I love the way Dacob describes a fragrance. Thank you so much. Shop Queen says, they have some beautiful scents, and my friend bought one, Louis Vuitton, and I always compliment him on it for getting its Louis Vuitton. They are nice and strong. I'd suggest getting some samples. I agree with you in terms of get your samples. Do not blind buy these fragrances. They're very expensive and they're not for everyone, and they don't develop nicely in everyone's skin. They are pleasant. They do have a pleasant quality to them. But from my personal experience, a lot of them do not last on my skin very long. So your friend is lucky to have that type of chemistry where the fragrance actually really bonded well with their skin. It's starting to develop a soapy quality, ambroxan. You know, ambroxan has a tendency sometimes to go aldehydic, almost like it's an aldehyde, like a sparkly, soapy, bubbly thing. But right now that's what's kicking in. And the orange, Sicilian orange with soap. And I'm getting a lot of green. The green does smell natural to me. It's not a synthetic green. You know, when green is synthetic, it can really smell like a plasticky candy almost. Not strawberry, raspberry, violet candy, but rather like a sour candy almost. This green is a natural green smell. Although the ambroxan here is kind of becoming a little bit predominant. There's hints of Nivea cream or Nivea cream, or however you want to pronounce it. In Italy, they pronounce it different in America and everywhere in the world, but you know what I'm talking about. So it has a little bit of that kind of Nivea, almost a hint of a jasmine-y, oily touch to it, even though jasmine isn't listed in the ingredients. Maybe it's the ginger and the neroli that play that effect of being jasmine-y. Like give you the illusion, make you imagine jasmine. Maybe that's what the imagination was about. Imagining flowers that are not really in the fragrance. I don't know, but I was really excited about this because I thought to myself, ooh, somebody gave a perfume the name Imagination. And that's what, when we wear perfumes, that's all we can dream about. Perfumes stimulate our imagination. And I thought, okay, finally somebody touches base on the fact that fragrances do stimulate our imagination. So calling a perfume Imagination should be, it's a challenge. You're already kind of a little bit castrated from the get-go, because if you give your perfume the name Imagination, you got to cover a very, very broad spectrum of everything that a perfume can deliver. And so you're setting yourself up for failure unless you're not really good at it, unless you're not really a master at what you do. And I think Jacques Cavalier is a master. He has a plethora of incredible perfumes under his belt throughout his gargantuan career. However, I'm not quite sure how much freedom he gets within Louis Vuitton, because the perfumes he did before Louis Vuitton feel more substantial to me. Louis is kind of always subdued, which is a pity because I love Louis Vuitton. I love everything that is connected to travel that they do. There's nobody like Louis Vuitton for me for travel and making you dream about far gone times and places. And, it's just, and the monogram, to me, the monogram is not a symbol of showing off that you can afford one. For me, the monogram is a symbol of old travel that you could still dream about in modern times. So travel in Louis Vuitton is also connected to imagination, because you have to imagine the potential that is there when you travel, and all the places you're going to discover and the stories you're going to live when you're traveling and what you're going to experience while you're traveling. And then you keep your journal while you're traveling and you're writing all that down, all your thoughts and how these new places influence you and influence your way of thinking. And all of those thoughts are written down in a journal. And so your imagination is constantly stimulated when you're traveling. So Louis Vuitton and imagination, to me, really go hand in hand when it comes to travel. And I love all of their monogram pieces because, that canvas is also really fit for travel. All of the canvas pieces I have from Louis. Virtually Unbreakable. Some of the I've had over 10 years and they're just brand new. Amazing. So I personally love it. This perfume doesn't follow up to that mythology, to that standard of how powerful imagination can be in connection to a brand. But having said that, I do believe that this perfume is a beautiful accent, just like, I don't know. This is an issue I have with all Louis Vuitton fragrances by Jacques Cavalier. It's as if he doesn't dare to take center stage with his perfumes. It's as if he creates perfumes to accentuate Louis Vuitton's bags. I know Louis Vuitton also makes clothing, but let's face it, mostly everybody's into their bags and small leather goods. That's what they're famous for, ultimately. They started off making trunks for travel. So the clothes came in later. You could love their clothes or not, whatever. But Louis is famous for their travel luggage. Okay. I feel like all of the fragrances I've smelled thus far by Jacques Cavalier for Louis Vuitton function as an accessory to the main character in this theater play, which is Louis' luggage, Louis' bags, even Louis' clothing. And I always feel like he never dares to go there with the Louis Vuitton fragrances, meaning he never really dares to create a perfume for them that dominates the stage, takes center stage, and becomes the main character of this theater play. And this is something I've noticed kind of all across the board in all of these luxury houses with their niche ranges of their exclusives, you know. Same applies to Christian Dior. When they first launched their Collection Privée range, the first three were center stage. Cologne Blanche, Bois d'Argent, and Eau Noire. Those three, still to this day, I know Cologne Blanche has been discontinued, but I still have a bottle. So Eau Noire, Cologne Blanche, and Bois d'Argent are really fully fleshed out perfumes, all three created by different perfumers, not just one. You know, Jacques Cavalier creates all of the perfumes for Louis Vuitton. François Demachy creates all of the perfumes for Christian Dior. Olivier Polge creates all of the perfumes for Chanel. You know, it's very boring. It's very, very conservative, very boring. But the first three Dior's were created by different perfumers. Actually, Bois d'Argent, I think, was created by more than one perfumer. Or maybe not. Maybe it was just one. I don't know. One of the three definitely had two noses working on it, or three even. But we digress. What I want to say is, this is a tendency I'm seeing now with the Collection Privée range by Christian Dior. They all seem lackluster. Yes, they have character-ish, but none of them dare to be Poison by Christian Dior. None of them dare to be Dune or Dolce Vita or Hypnotic Poison. And they're all, you know, like, oh, it's very elegant to be very... Yeah, I don't know. It feels to me like you're just under a lot of pressure. You got to churn out I don't know. Now they're like churning out 3, 4, 5 of these fragrances a year. You don't have the time to develop them. That's how quickly they're pooping them out. So obviously they're keeping them the low down. Dior is even telling you, yeah, buy 4 or 5, layer them, create new compositions. I'm like, wait, so I got to do the job for you now? And I'm spending all that money? I know it's kind of cute as a concept to kind of layer your perfumes, but not on my dime. If I want to layer them, that's up to me. But I don't want you from the get-go to already sell me these products as if I gotta buy 5 of them to get a decent perfume. What the hell is that about? No. So back to Louis Vuitton. I feel that there's this general tendency for all of these major houses to deliver these meh-ish fragrances that just accessorize the rest, which is the clothing and the bags and the SLGs. And so I don't know, do you guys agree with me? Playing it safe, says Leslie. Lie to me. Yeah, I don't know what that means. Okay. A Louis Vuitton perfumes line is nice, says Jesus. Nothing more than that. They're pleasant, but there is not much thought behind them. Jack Dean says, I agree. Prada says, they are nice, but not worth the money unless you can afford them. This goes for all fragrances, to be honest. Prada Darling 2001, I agree with you. And that's why I always keep saying, and I know people keep telling me, no, Daco, that's not true, but like, it shouldn't be that way. The way being, I believe fragrances should not be classified as luxury. They enhance our lives in such a beautiful way, and they help us also get through hard times, and they unlock memories, and they let us travel through our imagination. And there should not be a premium charged on top of the already expensive price just because they're deemed luxury goods. They shouldn't be. And so that's why I don't, you know, but then again, I gotta say also, there are a lot of wonderful cheapies, perfumes that were super expensive when they were first released, now re-released as cheapies, still great quality. Obsession by Calvin Klein. I mean, I bought my 100 ml eau de parfum bottle by Coty, now distributed by Coty, for $15. And I love it to bits. You know how much I love, you know how much I love my Obsession by Calvin Klein. Lulu by Cacharel, Eden by Cacharel. They're amazing, amazing. And they're considered cheapies today. Liz Claiborne, another one. Giorgio Beverly Hills, another one. Jack says it's just production for the sake of capitalism. Jesus says, Guicha's imagination is unmatched. There we go. KP says, it feels like the major luxury houses often cut corners and the perfume is an afterthought. That's why I love Serge Lutens and Guerlain. Guerlain really feels But you see, Guerlain, good that you mentioned Guerlain, and good that you mentioned Serge Lutens, because both of them are only dedicated to fragrances. Yes, in particular, Guerlain has also a huge range of beauty products. But what I want to say is their brand is not mainly clothing and bags. None of that. Guerlain was born as a fragrance company. So of course, and cosmetic. So of course you have to, I mean, that's their center stage. Their perfumes take center stage, while Louis Vuitton perfumes cannot take center stage because Louis Vuitton is not about perfumes. Louis Vuitton is about bags, travel, clothing. So maybe there's that as well to consider. Serge Lutens, same thing. Serge Lutens perfumes, cosmetics. Serge Lutens does not make clothing. So of course those perfumes are more thought out because the whole brand, the whole company is about perfumes, while Louis Vuitton is not. Christian Dior is also not about perfumes. Chanel is also not about perfumes. Although I gotta say, Chanel is an exception because they do not make so many of them every year. Sometimes they even skip a year. You know, they release one Les Exclusifs every couple of years. Now they added the Les Eaux range. They release one a year. They skipped last year though. Paris Edinburgh was supposed to come out last year. It came out this year instead. So Chanel does put more thought into their releases. Definitely. It definitely does. And it does give center stage to their fragrances. Chanel is the only luxury brand that is dedicated to clothing and bags that also pushes and opens up exclusive beauty boutiques that are only dedicated to fragrances and the cosmetic line. They also sell sunglasses in those boutiques, but that's where perfumes take center stage. So they really invest a lot of money in that. While Louis Vuitton does not open fragrance boutiques. They open bag clothing boutiques in which you can also buy fragrances. Hermès, very similar with the Hermessence range. They have their main release Hermès perfumes that you could buy in perfumeries everywhere. And then they have their boutique exclusives, which are the Hermessence fragrances. For the most part, all of them are also just accessorizing whatever Hermès has to offer, being carré silk scarves, bags, shoes, and horse riding gear. Like crops. But yeah, other than that, I really have the feeling that that's the tendency. Maybe if we analyze and smell these perfumes with that in mind, bearing in mind that certain brands are not about perfumes. Louis Vuitton is not about perfumes. So if we keep that in mind and we realize that maybe Louis Vuitton doesn't even allow Jacques Cavalier to put their fragrances center stage, if we see it that way, then maybe we could appreciate the perfumes more for what they are. But even then, and even still, I gotta say, well, then don't charge so much money for them. You know, if you're purposefully toning them down from what they potentially could be, because you don't want to let them be what they could be, to not overshadow the bags and the clothes. So if you're purposefully, on purpose, not allowing them to shine, then why are you letting the price tag shine, boo-boo? No, it ain't pretty. Just saying. So, now after some time has passed, it's a lovely fragrance. It's a lovely fragrance. But it's a fragrance that does not tickle my imagination. It's pleasant, it's clean, it's airy. I could see this as a wonderful fragrance for travel because it lightens. If you're sitting in the train for hours and hours and you just spray this a little bit, it lightens the atmosphere. It makes everything lighter. It makes you feel clean, even though you've been kind of like, you know, bouncing in the train for over 10 hours, 12 hours already, and you start feeling dirty. This one does zhuzh up. It does pep up a travel mood. So for that reason, as an accessory to travel, I highly recommend it. I highly do. But as a perfume for perfume lovers who just want to wear this the whole day and go on a mind journey and trip with it, this one is not going to trigger that imagination. It's going to trigger the imagination if you're in a train traveling through the heat for 10 hours and you spray this on. It will make you imagine as if you were clean again and not sweaty. So that far, it does take you in terms of imagination. Very pleasant, very clean, super safe, nothing groundbreaking. But as I said, if we don't expect groundbreaking from Louis Vuitton, then this one is really cool. Then all of them are really cool. But I expect a lot from Jacques Cavalier, because Jacques Cavalier has an incredible archive, an incredible curriculum vitae of what he has already delivered. So I'm like, what a waste of genius. What a waste of genius to constantly have to exercise toning one's self down for the sake of working for Louis Vuitton. And now I understand it also requires masterfulness to let go of your ego and create a perfume that doesn't like overshadow everything else. It takes a lot of restraint and elegance to also be able to deliver a fragrance that is subdued. I get it. I totally get it. And I understand. But does it have to be over 25 of them? Like, you've proven your point. We see that you can deliver the subdued elegance. Okay. Do you have to deliver it 28 times? Because I think that's how many of them they have out there already. You know, because then it becomes a fake elegance. Then I'm like, well, now you're overdoing it, boo-boo. Now you're like, now the ego is shining again. Now, like, you've kind of tasted the flavor of like, oh, I can do this so well. Let me do more and more and more. And I'm like, well, then now the ego is coming out again. So that subdued elegance has been just chopped off. Its legs have been chopped off because you can't stop. It would be much more elegant to deliver one subdued, highly elegant, effortless fragrance and have that one to represent that subdued, toning down the ego type of perfume. And we know you can do it. We applaud you for it. That's beautiful. But then keeping on doing it, churning them out until you get to 35, 40 of them. And then the older ones don't sell anymore. So they already started discontinuing some of their fragrances, Louis Vuitton. Also Christian Dior. Chanel doesn't do that though. They still have all of their, well, Chanel has been around for centuries. So, but all of their releases from the post Second World War to now, minus the Mademoiselle range that Chanel made to combat the Wertheimers, which is a whole other story. Minus that, every other perfume that was released, unless they were not released as special limited editions, like Un Fleur de Chanel, are still available and are still in rotation. And Bois Noir was also special limited edition. But everything else, what came out is still out. Now talking about certain concentrations that have been then discontinued, the actual fragrances themselves are still available. Louis is already discontinuing. They just started in 2016 and they're already discontinuing some of them. Turbulence is already gone, for example. You could still repurchase you could refill your empty bottles, but you can't buy a new bottle anymore in some countries. And so I'm saying, okay, you can deliver the subdued elegance, but it's not elegant to already start discontinuing them because you have too many on the market. And two, it's not elegant to overdo it. So you see what I mean? Either way we see it and either way we put it, either way we turn that rock, it still kind of falls to the ground and it's still really a heavy burden. That's all I got to say about this imagination. Still a very lovely fragrance, very lovely. There's a little bit of cinnamon poking through now, a little bit of everything poking, a little bit of everything. Everything is subdued, everything is delicately there, everything is inoffensive, because we're living in these inoffensive times as well, where, you know, heaven forbid somebody were to have an opinion about anything, they get canceled immediately. And so these perfumes would get canceled as well. Funny, though, that they're getting canceled anyway because they're not selling. Maybe they have too little character. Because if something has too little character, then also nobody sees it. Then you just become invisible. And there's nothing worse than being invisible for imagination. Anywho, Katerina Williams says, agree with Clean Freak and Clean Freak. I don't know what Clean Freak said. Oh, Clean Freak says, I don't understand why these companies are churning out so many fragrances and then they go back and want to cut costs and start changing them. It's a joke. They're like literally, you know, biting their own tail. You know, the snake that bites its own tail. Jack says, is he under contract? Can he leave Vuitton? He also creates for other brands as well. He's not exclusive to Louis. He's not. Other fragrances under his name have been released since 2016 for other brands, not just for Louis. Gary says, imagination is the whole thing behind fragrance. If everyone here smelled the same fragrance, I would bet that everyone would have a different mental image from that same scent. Probably, probably. Alyssa says, if a perfume doesn't make me feel like the main character, I don't want it. It's a good point. It's a good thing to talk about. It's a good, actually, topic for debate. Shop Queen says, am I the only one who thinks Hermes should do a collab with Dacob on a crop? Ooh, I would love that. I would want a retractable crop that you could put into your Birkin and your Kelly. So you can always take it out, expand it, and use it. The retractable crop for the Birkin and the Kelly. A1H. I have the Louis Vuitton perfume tester kit, and they were all very oldish without any personality. One was nice, but it was shocking how bad they were. You see, you didn't like them, huh? Jack says, very much that brands need to stay in their lane and master their craft, not dilute themselves to mediocrity. Leslie Craven says, Guerlain Nahima, my first serious perfume. Orsi, oh my God, I was in the Guerlain Maison in Paris. Dream come true. Cami Q says, sounds like the classic perfumes of yesteryear are still the best. If you want character, yeah, they are. They are. Lois says, Lois Von Hussein says, I actually love Louis Vuitton's Attrape Rêve fragrance. There are really good ones out there, you know, but they're just... They're there. They're not up there. Silala says, Lulu is one of my all-time favorites. Stephen Tinel says, Louis Vuitton is going to release a collection of 5 extraits this fall. Oh, so Louis is going to release 5 pure perfumes this fall? Looking forward to it. Jack says, it's just production for the sake of capitalism. KP says, it feels like the major luxury houses often cut corners and the perfume is an afterthought. That's why I love Serge Lutang. I already read that comment. You guys, thank you so much for commenting and for joining the conversation. You too can join the conversation every Saturday because I live stream every Saturday where these videos are recorded. No editing, it's all live and everything is unhinged, as you may. Well, unhinged. I am under control because I don't use certain language in my videos, but thank you to all my patrons and members who have already pledged. You too can become a member by pushing the join button next to the subscription button and becoming one of the co-producers of the Fashion Bunker and having your name scroll through at the end of every video, like we see this gorgeous little credit line scrolling, just like at the end of every gorgeous Halloween, yeah, I'm obsessed with Halloween. Hollywood, I wanted to say, just like every gorgeous Hollywood production, you always have those credits so elegantly scrolling at the end of every movie. Ah, how we love Hollywood sometimes. As for this perfume, I'm getting wafts of it. It is very pleasant. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I don't like it. I'm just saying, for me personally, it's not worth that huge amount of money to purchase a full bottle. But it is really lovely. But lovely is not the adjective that you would kind of add to imagination. Or is it? Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, superdacob, all spelled together. And join me on my Essence-tially Dacob journey through the world of perfumes. Until next time, never forget to never give up on love. Love you all. See you soon. Take care. Bye. Mwah.